Welcome, everyone. My name is Val Walters, and I'm so happy to welcome you to our November parental panel. This is a product of the Ryan Bartel Foundation. We are a teen suicide prevention organization here in the Loudoun County area. And at the start of COVID, we started providing these parent panels just to get parents connected to resources and information that was so needed during that time. And the response has been so great that we've been actually able to continue to provide these workshops and these experiences for parents now even post-COVID. So welcome. I'd like to introduce our two speakers for this evening. We have Dr. Suzanne Nixon, who is a board member on the foundation board. She has years of experience as a licensed professional counselor, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and over 40 years of experience in the field of healing, wellness, and mindfulness, and a great friend to me. And then we also have this evening Cindy Duego. She is an athlete, she's a parent, she's an educator, a coach, and a trainer. And she firmly believes that we may not have control over what happens, but we do control how we react and deal with what is happening. So tonight's program is about mindfulness, bringing mindfulness into your home and addressing the chaos that can occasionally happen. So thank you so much to both Cindy and Suzanne for being here. And Suzanne, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And thank you again for being here.
You're most welcome. And with all of that, I just wanted to take a pause. That was a lot of information. So welcome, everybody. And I am excited to have my friend Cindy here. And I also want to say that she is a mindfulness expert as well and has been teaching yoga and mindfulness and meditation for years. So she has that expertise. And it's always so lovely, Cindy, to team with you on these kind of programs. We've done it before. Yeah.
Thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome. So I just want to begin by saying we all know that the past couple of years have been a whirlwind of unexpected events, and we were constantly in a state of surprise and adaptation and stress and not knowing. And so as we're in those kind of moments or those states and experiencing that, our stress level goes up. And for many of us, our stress level continued to go up and didn't come back down again. And now that we're somewhere in some kind of normal, maybe, we still have all that accumulated stress in our bodies and in our minds, and we still are adapting because it's not the same as it was in 2019. So we need to look at the fact that unmanaged stress, when we don't have a way of dealing with it and getting it out, creates illness, and it really disturbs our mental well-being. So when we look at what's happening with our teens, our adults, and our families, more people are going through depression and anxiety and worry and trauma than ever before. And a lot of that is because of stress being unmanaged and collecting in the body. So it's more important than ever to bring mindfulness into our lives, to bring mindfulness into the home environment, and to really get a sense of what is that and what does it look like and how can I do that, especially if we're a family. If you're an individual, it's easy to bring mindfulness to home because it's just you, but it gets way more complicated when it's a family and when you have kids. So tonight, our intention is to share mindfulness concepts and practices with you to be helpful to you, ways that we can be useful and to be of service to you. Cindy and I will go back and forth in sharing some of our expertise and pauses and meditations and practices. And we'll also be inviting you to ask questions or give comments of your experiences. So it's very much going to be conversational style as well as informative, because we need to have fun. These presentations need to have fun and be really looked in that way of the bright light here. So Cindy, I am going to turn it over to you for a wonderful beginning with a meditation.
Thank you, Suzanne. I would like to invite everybody. One of the things that, turn my phone off here. One of the things that Suzanne just mentioned was stress. And a lot of what stress is, I think, in people's lives is their resistance to their life unfolding. And a way to reduce resistance is to keep an open heart and an open mind. So I'm going to invite you into a meditation with me today, and it's a little bit different. It's a technique called heart math. And I learned this technique over in the UK to enhance performance in athletes. But it's actually a science and an intuitiveness that can help amplify your life. So we're talking about the outer world and the inner world, and this is a way to work on your inner world. The intelligence of your heart has the capacity to change how you feel and how you think and how we relate to each other. And turning to the wisdom of your heart allows you to approach situations that may be stressful with more emotional balance, more compassion, more clarity, and more confidence. So I'm going to lead you into coherence, and coherence is a state where the heart and the mind and the emotions are in energetic alignment and cooperation. The same way we want that alignment in the outer side of our life, the outside of our life, and our relationships, we have to bring it inside first. So the other thing that it brings is a change physiologically. It allows you to release oxytocin. That's the hormone that connects us and builds trust and empathy. And our cortisol levels go down, the stress hormones. So we're going to do it's called a quick coherence, and it's 3 steps, well, 4 steps, because I have to get you to close your eyes. When you walk into your house, when you go into your your external world, you have to open the door to get into your house. To get into your internal world, you have to close your eyes. So let's just everybody close our eyes and just focus on the literal space around your heart, right? This little organ that beats 24/7 for us from the moment we're born till the moment we leave the planet. So just bring your awareness to that heart beating in your chest. And then connect with your breath. And I'd like you to slow your breath down. If you think of a 5-second inhale, a 5-second hold, a 5-second exhale, and a 5-second pause, this is a resonant frequency for which all systems in our body synchronize. So just feel what that's like. And if it's out of sync for you, if it feels like you need to shorten it or lengthen it, please feel free. But just come into a connection to your breath with a pause at the top and a pause at the bottom. So once you feel yourself slowing down, awareness of your heart, awareness of your breath, I'm going to ask you to activate and genuinely feel a positive emotion. And I would suggest compassion, care, gratitude, appreciation, joy, or something else that resonates with you. And perhaps it's easier for you to recall a peak experience of a positive emotion, or have a special place that you enjoy being, and that evokes that emotion. And I want you to imagine breathing it into your heart and feeling that heart expand with that emotion. So just take 3 more rounds of breath, filling your heart with that positive emotion. And when you're done, just slowly open your eyes.
Thank you.
So just take a moment and feel what you just generated in your heart and in your mind and in your body. Your nervous system is now balanced. Your fight, flight, freeze, your amygdala is offline, and you've brought yourself into a state of coherence. You've changed your interior space. And this is a place where I guide athletes at the starting line of an event, where people guide CEOs at some big meetings. For you to use this as a place, if you know you have a hard conversation to have with your kids or somebody else in your life, if you're feeling the stress, this is a way to center yourself and not let that stress be where you speak from or where you behave from. Everybody feel good? Thank you. And I think it's Suzanne's turn now.
Yeah, thank you for that. And something I learned this year, Cindy, was that when we go into that pause and we hold it for some people, they can only hold it for 3 seconds, but anywhere from 3 on, the brain actually stops thinking. Now, there's a scientific word for it, which of course I can't pull out of my hat right now, but the brain stops and goes into this pause and doesn't have a thought. And then as soon as we exhale, the brain kicks back in and starts thinking. So it's wonderful to remember that when we have a lot on our mind, or we're feeling stressed, or we feel like we're just going to become emotionally reactive to whoever we're talking with, that if we do the breath, whether it's the heart math breath or a deep breathing technique, and we do that pause, the mind can actually rest and not think. And that can be of great value to us.
Yeah, the mind is the king of the body, and the breath is the king of the mind.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's the only thing that can override our minds is our breath.
And Cindy does this occasionally, and I just absolutely love when we are co-speaking. She pulls in these phrases that just kind of touch me. So thank you for that. So as we're looking at mindfulness in the home, I want to just go over 3 definitions. I don't know how all of you are familiar with these concepts, but just quickly, I want to say to you that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment and being aware of what is, accepting what is without judgment. So it would be me being aware right now that I actually feel I am in my body. I feel the gestures of my arms and my hands. I'm aware of a ringing in my ear because I've had tinnitus for about 6 years and it never stops. So I'm aware of that sound in my ear. I'm aware of being present with you all here. And I'm accepting myself in this moment. And I have no actually judgments at this time. So it's being aware of my body in my presence, and also of my mind and what my thoughts are. My thoughts are going to being present with you and talking tonight. I don't feel distracted by another thought. That is being mindful and bringing mindful attention to this moment in myself. It is a practice that takes years and years and years to develop. And even when we develop it, we can lose it like this. So even though I've been studying this for almost 40 years, I don't carry it around with me all the time. I have to remind myself to be in that state of awareness, which is why it's called a practice. So for all of you that are new, or all of you that, you are experienced, you know what I'm talking about. It's going to stay and go and stay and go, and give yourself acceptance and forgiveness about that. Then when we talk about mindful living and mindful being, when we are in this state of mindfulness and we can then move in the world with this, we call it taking that mindful awareness and presence into action, into our environment, and showing up that way, in a way of beingness, a way of communicating, a way of livingness. So it would be me walking out to my car, and instead of rushing, that I tend to do that, of being mindful and bringing the mindful thoughts of calm and peace and attention to my stride and to the way that I walk up to my car and pull out of the driveway. of not rushing, but being in that state of awareness and patience and thoughtfulness. So when we start bringing it into our lives, we start living what we say a mindful lifestyle, that we live in this awareness. We see this a lot with mindful eating. You know, it's a big topic right now. How are we mindfully eating? We're paying attention to each bite, how it goes into the mouth, how we begin to swallow and digest, and what it feels like, and then waiting at least 10 to 20 seconds before the next bite. So mindfulness is now encroaching everything around us, which I think is a good thing. So mindful, that's mindful living. Now, then we talk about mindfulness in the home. So what is that? That would be when we look at our home, and Cindy will go into the interior and I'll go more into the exterior, that we have a sense of we're really present in our home, we're really aware of our home, and we're aware of what's contributing to what in our home. So when I walk into my home, I'm aware of some colors that are bringing a soothing effect to me as soon as I walk in. I'm aware of the windows in my house bringing in the light. So when we create a mindful home, we're aware of the presence within and we're aware of the presence in the outer world and what contributes to that feeling of calm and peace and harmony and balance and coherence, as Cindy was talking about coherence, that it's a reflection of inner calm and outer calm. Then the other thought to just bring to you, which I had so much fun with this because I played with this a little bit and wanted to look it up. What is home, right? So I looked it up in the, of course, Googled it, but the word is an English word. And the Old English word comes from ham. And maybe Susie, you know this, but it's the Old English word is ham, and not the pig. And it refers to a village or estate where many souls gathered. A village or estate where many souls gathered in the very old way of looking at it. And it's a gathering of people. So if you've ever been over to the UK and you've ever done any of your tours in the sacred grounds of Stonehenge, you will know that the gathering place was structures, or the gathering place was the big tree in the community, and everybody would have the community meetings under the big tree. So home is the gathering place where we all come into community. And in modern times, most of us have built shelters to do that. It is also, we talk about, it's the heart of the home. What is the heart of the home? So the home has this vibration, this energy. And we'll talk more about that. And home is also symbolized as having being a safe haven. So if it was, in 1000 AD, and you're underneath that big tree having a community meeting because you don't have a structure, it feels safe to be in the gathering. And there's a comfort zone. You can be yourself. And we also know that home symbolizes love. So I want you to pause for a second and think, what is my home to me? What does my home mean to me? Is it a gathering place? Is it a community? Is everybody welcome? Is it a safe haven? Is it comfortable? A place at ease? A place of beauty and harmony? What is my home? And then, of course, you'll go to the next question is, well, what do I want to create with my home? Which is what we're going to be doing tonight. So I just want to stop for a second and just see if, and pause, I call it a mindful pause. If anybody just wants to give a shout out to what is your concept of home? What really resonates with you? Or what would you like it to be?
I'd like you to come and arrange my home, Suzanne, because I know yours is very calm and mine is complete chaos.
But you seem to function quite well. Well, I am trained. I have some training in Feng Shui. So I Feng Shui my houses and offices. So, but thank you for that.
So Suzanne, I still get the best sleep when I'm at my parents' home. There's something about being at their home that just allows me to get into that deeper sleep.
Right. And often that's because the home in your heart is your family home. and it brings you a sense of ease, and therefore you can sleep well. I love that. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Val.
Hello, Suzanne. My name is Alessia. And for me, the home is like where my heart is, and just having the sense of family around. um, we're here in Virginia, and the rest of our family are spread out across the U.S. and overseas. So, and friends have become family. So for us, it's having like peace within the household, and peace being, that spiritual aspect, plus loving to stop and listen to music, just have music going in the background, and we don't even have to speak during that time frame, but just as a whole, just having music playing in the background, and it encourages like just being in each other's presence, and being silent, but just enjoying each other's company.
Well, Alicia, I think you could take over the program tonight. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. Okay, let's
There's a
shift.
comment. There's a comment in the chat. I don't know if you have the chat open, Suzanne, about home being chaos with so much jobbing and running in this season. They need more peace and harmony.
Yes, and I think as we're going into Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holidays, or Yom Kippur, or not, I was going to say Yom Kippur, Hanukkah, yeah, that can happen. So, and we'll talk about that. It's then looking at the clutter in your house and what is on the outside and what you can do about it now and be preventative, like preventative home care as the chaos begins. So looking at that, and also as Cindy will lead us into, is looking at the interior home. So for some of you, you can function in a chaos or disorganized home, and for some of you, you can't. So it's going to be learning your style of how you can function best in harmony and balance with yourself, and what is some way that you can't do that. So we're going to get back to that, because I think we need to spend a few minutes on that. But I want to turn over to Cindy to talk about the interior home. So as we're talking about home, yes, we have the physical structure of our home, but also think of when I just talked about the ancient times gathering under a tree, or a piece of land or around rocks. It's also the interior home. And we bring both of those presents when we talk about bringing mindfulness to the home space. Cindy, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. I'm going a little bit off target here just in this conversation. There's a Jill Bolt Taylor is a stroke survivor that wrote several books, and I read her recent book about the brain, and she talked about there's not a left and a right brain, there's just a whole brain. Anyways, long story short, she said there's 4 characters in our brain, and one of them is it fears the unknown, stems from traumatized or out of control past, feels less than, not worthy of love, blah, blah, blah. And it says if your mind that's gifted at creating order in the world isn't developed, that you shift to this other brain that is not worthy, feels less than, and feel overwhelmed, anxious, and hopelessly behind, which is where I lived a lot of my life. I lived in that part of my brain because I couldn't create order because I felt helpless. Anyways, it was just this vicious cycle. Yeah, so there isn't just, psychological, it's neurological. These are like how our brain operates. So if we shift that to the inside, and I'm going to talk a lot about the power of the breath and the power of the heart, but the mind often is running the show if we don't pay attention to what's going on in our hearts. We just talked about the heart of your home, the gathering of souls, the depths of us, right? In order to reach our heights, we have to go into our depths in life. So we all, well, I'll back up again. Presence is the state or fact of existing or occurring or being present in a place or thing. We all want to feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure in ourselves and in our home. So try to create this safe space, this secure space. I think it's very important to create it within yourself before you even begin to create it in your home, but the home is going to help probably some people to do that first and then try to create the calm in themselves after that. So interior space involves thoughts, emotions, our physiological processes. You just got an experience of that yourselves, of how to bring that sense of soothing and security into yourself. And understanding that all of our thoughts and our emotions and our processes, they impact the people in our lives, and they impact, or they're considered to be out of our control, right? So stepping into your interior, if you don't feel like you have control over your thought and your emotions, that they're just a reaction to your environment, you're in uncharted territory, and you need like navigational skills to do that. So change from the inside out means we have to take ownership of how we have that power to make those changes. So just sitting there, like, take a moment and just, we already did heart math, you don't have to close your eyes for this one, but just be present in your bodies. And say, and is there something, you know, bubbling inside? Is there something from your day that happened that is still sort of, you know, running through your head? You're jacked up in your nervous system. Is something going on? Is there a reactiveness still in your body this evening? So notice that. Is your heart rate high? Do you feel jittery? Do you feel tense? And then just take a second to go back to that heart and feel that heart beating, right? Because it's responding to whatever it is that we're feeling. Our central nervous system, you know, will bring us into incoherence if it's following the crazy in our minds and in our hearts. And then just notice your breath. Is it shallow? Is it deep? Are we back? You know, did that 20-second breath bring you into a little bit more coherence? So you're going through the rooms of your interior home, right? What's happening? Is your digestion? Did you have dinner? Are you hungry? Are you waiting for after this, you know, this talk to get something to eat? Were you sitting all day today? Are you just tired from being, you know, down? Or were you very active today and you're enjoying being seated? And all of those processes, the emotional, the mindful, the physiological, are they with ease or with effort? And finding the road of ease, right? The path of least resistance is a way to reduce stress in our lives, in our bodies, in our hearts, and in our minds. So just take a minute and think, okay, what is Cindy saying? Like, what's going on with this information that's coming in for you? Is this familiar information? Is this, like, you know, startling news for you? Are you curious? One of the best things you can do when you're taking new information in, instead of going, oh, that's crazy, or, oh, I've heard it before, is use curiosity and caution, right? Curiosity and caution, because that doesn't create resistance to what's happening or close off doors to the possibility of what could happen, or take you out of your intelligence and into your reactiveness. But just notice that, right? Just notice what you're hearing and how that's filtering through your perception, your mindset. the mood that we're in when we're learning things, when we do things, is more important than how we do them. So setting ourselves up to be curious, to be able to make changes, to be able to reduce stress, to create an interior space that's a beautiful place, you have to set that mood. You have to set that tone rather than let something exterior to you, set that tone. Just reminded me, I have an aging mother that I call. She lives up in Canada, and I call her, 3 times a week. Hey, Mom, how are you? And the first thing she tells me is how terrible the weather is. How terrible the weather is. I'm like, Mom, what's good weather? Is there a day that there's good weather, Mom? Is there a day that there's good weather? And she lets that set the tone of her day. And often we do that. We let something else set the tone of our day rather than us taking charge of it and setting the tone for ourselves. So after investigating what's going on in that body and heart and mind, I invite you to just take 5 more breaths. Slowly, deliberately, take like a scan. Imagine you're like getting a CAT scan or something. Take a scan of your interior and see if you can create a more beautiful place than 10 minutes ago. See if you can clear some space. Find an easier path that you're not resisting emotionally, cognitively.
And Cindy, let me know when you've paused, and I'll add to what you've just said.
Yeah. So I shouldn't be counting breaths, I guess, for people, but I like people to kind of go at their own pace. Just remember that in order to change conditions outside yourself, you must first change them within yourself. Seek to understand what's going on inside of you and let go of what no longer is serving you. Don't let it stay. Kick it out. Be gone. So hopefully you found some things that maybe were creating stress for you that you can let go of. And there's a more beautiful inside in the beautiful body that you're in. Just after some conscious, deliberate shifts in perception.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to say a couple of things about teenagers, because you just kind of rattled my mind, and I know parents are, yearning to hear that. When Cindy talked about the order in the brain structure and what her friend had written about, what we have to remember is that our teens' brains are developing. So the neurobiology of them is their brains are not formed until they're 25. They're in a continuous state of shaping and forming and developing. So if order is a really important function in the brain to help bring us sanity and clear thinking, then we need to be aware of the order outside of us, as well as the order inside when we're talking with our teen, and how that's influencing their brain development. It's really big. How is it influencing their brain development? The second point is I'm trained as a trauma therapist as well. When we're in a state of high stress or we're in a state of trauma, we either take our body energy and we squeeze it inside of ourselves and become these little small beings, or We actually leave our body energetically, and we're pretty vacant in the physical structure. It's an energetic process. It's true. It's real. So sometimes your teens may knock on their door, metaphorically, and they're not home. They may not be in their body because the stress of their own experiences, they've moved out and they're somewhere out in nature somewhere, and they haven't come back in. That is a high stress reaction. That's a trauma reaction. Or they may collapse inside and be so tight and small, they're really very, very anxious and aren't able to settle themselves, as Cindy speaks about, to settle the nervous system and calm it down. They're dysregulated. So coming home to the body is really important when we think about our teens. Really important. I was always fascinated, before I got more education, about why there were some teenagers that could go to school with no coats. It would be freezing outside and they didn't have to wear their coats. And their mothers would be after them, put on your coat, put on your coat. I don't need my coat. They take it and then they take it off, right? That's a sign then of something happening within the nervous system and the hormonal system. They're triple warmer, as we say in Chinese medicine, that something is amiss, and it may be related to they're not home, they're not present, they're not aware in their body, and they really can't feel the temperature. They really can't feel it. And again, with my background in trauma training, I've seen this happen. So it's something I want you to start really thinking about. Is my teen at home in themselves? And if they are they fluid and flowing, or are they out of here sitting on a tree and observing their life? Or are they crunched inside, collapsed and tight as a bud, right? I think it's very profound to think about it. The third thing and it's a great communication technique to use with your teen. When Cindy's calling her mother and her mother's talking about the weather, we have the weather inside of us. So we can ask our teen and use it metaphorically, because how many people, including myself, I have two, adult children. How are you feeling? Fine. What's new? Nothing. Did you have a good day? Yeah. Ask them how the weather is. How is the weather inside of you metaphorically? Is it stormy today inside there? Is it quiet? Is it a sunny day inside of you? Is it raining cats and dogs? If you use the metaphor of weather and asking them how they feel, it brings them right into their body and right into that awareness of what my experience is. And it makes them pause, stop, and think. They may think you're a little bit nuts, but that's okay. They always do. And then it may engage a dialogue. So that's a great skill communication set to use with your teen to find out how they are. All right. I'm just going to pause for a second and see if there's any questions before I move on. And if there's something in the chat, Val, it's always great if you read it, not me. We're good?
Nothing new is popped up yet.
All right, so here we have this interior space. Now we're going to talk about the outer space. And actually, a lot of women like to talk about the exterior home, the outer spaces of our homes. And the first thing I want you to think about, and this happens to me, when you walk into the door of your home, what's the ambience? What does it feel like when you walk into your home? What's the pulse of your home? What's the energy? What do you feel? I've deliberately created an office in my private practice where people come in and the first thing they say across the board is, wow, your office feels so calm. Yep. I deliberately set my office to feel calm. The second thing they say is, it feels cozy. Yep. Because if you're going to talk in counseling about some of the things that are really on your mind and in your heart, we need to be cozy and we need to be calm. So if you walk into your house, do you feel that? Do you know of somebody's home that you walk into that you definitely feel it? You feel a sense of calm, a sense of peace, and the ambience is inviting. We can also think of the spa, you walk into the spa room and, the music and the different kinds of colors and the palette and the empty spaces, that gives you a place of calm. So I want you to be aware that the ambience of your home contributes to the mental health of you and your teen and your family, the ambience. You can also have a home that's highly energetic and a vibration, a pulse of things really moving. But the question you want to ask yourself is it chaotic? Is it chaotic? And what does it mean when it's really chaotic? Chaotic means it's disorganized energies, disorganized placement of things, disorganized rooms. And that vibration will contribute to the disorganization, the dysregulation within our bodies. And I'm going to say that again, because that's really powerful and significant. And like everybody, I'm imperfect and I've made lots of mistakes. And then I try to catch it, which mistakes I've made and try to turn them around and become aware and redo it. So if your space is chaotic in every which way, disorganized, clutter, nothing has order, nothing has placement, things are thrown right here or there, pictures are hanging crazy on the wall, the color's bright orange or neon green, that's going to bring an energy of dysregulation, of disharmony into the body field. And your teen is going to feel that, and the nervous system does a dance with the energy that's present in the house, which is why this is so important to bring mindfulness and harmony into the home by looking at your space, right? It affects our mood. It affects, again, our neurobiology. It affects our hearts. And so we have this ability to make some shifts with our teens and in our home by doing some organization. So somebody says, can you read that one out loud? I get stressed when
I walk in and no one has done the dishes and the kitchen is a mess. I get the eye rolls when I point it out. So how do we impart the importance of simple things like that having importance in our state of being?
Oh, I love that one. It's a mindful practice in the home. So when I've gone to mindfulness retreats, and most of the time they're silent, and if they're sleepover retreats, you have kitchen duty. And in the kitchen, everybody's quiet and everybody really pays attention to scrubbing the plates and the pots, especially if it's breakfast and you've had oatmeal, right? Of scrubbing everything with a clear intention of wanting the plates to be clean so that the next meal, the person will eat off of the plate and the food will nourish them and not have a bacteria that it carries. So there can be a practice. Just think of all those dishes in your sink that have bacteria, right? So there can be a practice of just sitting down at the table when you're eating, of talking about little things like this, of talking about if you clean the dishes and if you're mindful about really scrubbing, the effect that you have on our bodies insofar as nutrition, as well as our mind and insofar as peace, is monumental. And I want you to know that it's not just I see these dishes in the sink. I want you to know how it affects my mood, how it affects my body. And I want you to know how that small action, that act of kindness, is going to brighten my day, and it's not going to escalate my stress. So it's giving the message in a really heartfelt way and a not punishing or blaming way of the importance of this small little practice has on you and how it contributes to your day. And kids will listen to that. And even husbands, if you have one, they will listen to that and really take that in. And we call these little mindfulness practices. Like there's another one that I do. If there's a lot of noise in the house and I have a Tibetan bowl, I'll go in the middle of the living room and I'll just go. And what happens is everybody stops and says, what the heck is that, right? So I break up the chaos by doing something unusual, surprising, and something that could be alerting and calming at the same time. You want to try to get attention from your teens or your family members in a way that they don't expect it, and then talk from the heart about why it's important. You then could lead into, this is a guy, right? I like the garage to be organized so I can do my stuff. So you can do trade-offs. Okay, I like the dishes done. How about you paying attention to the garage and where you put things when you're trashing things, because it's near my tool bench. So do that even exchange. Is that helpful, Susie? All right. So one other thing to add with looking at time, with what's visible, we have what we call Feng Shui. It's an old ancient art developed in China, and it's based, or Japan, it's based on the placement of things. It's based on the fact that there is energy in every living thing and every static thing, and that energy will have an effect on your health and your harmony, as well as your prosperity and what you're bringing into the world and what you're attracting into the world. So the Feng Shui principles are to balance one's space in harmony in order to bring all good things. When we talk about the Chinese 5 elements, which are the wood and the fire and the water and the metal, when we bring those elements into the house, it balances the energy of the house. It is a living entity. So if you bring in your stones and rocks, if you bring in your candles that have flames, if you bring in a metal sculpture, if you bring in a water fountain, all those elements can work together to bring a harmony of peace and congruence in the home environment that is felt. And that does carry an energy that goes right into our beingness, because our pores are open, our skin breathes, the largest organ of the body, and it's always taking in energy. So the energy of placement of things, and in the placement of things, according to Feng Shui, do not keep your corners cluttered. So every corner in a room, in your living room, think of the 4 corners, they need to be decluttered. That attracts negative energy. And so you want to bring clear energy to the corners that sets the space and that sets the tone for everything. It's a very easy one to remember. You want to think of colors. What are the soothing colors for your heart? You want to think of the decor in that way. You want to think of the kind of things that you hang on the wall. I happen to live next door to a very seasoned therapist who's retired and studied with some of the most famous therapists in the world. And his wife was kidding me. And we were having this great conversation. And she said, second marriage, she said, you know, the first thing Frank did when he came over to my house on my first date? I said, I have no idea, Justin, what he did. He walked into my house and he said, okay, where are the family pictures? I said, he did? He goes, yeah, he's a family therapist. And the first thing he notices in a person's house, where are the family pictures? Because that gives a message of the members in the house, the connection and love between and among. So everything you have in your house, real photographs or paintings or whatever, gives a message and can be one of peace and calm and love and connection, or one of disharmony, disconnection, even violence at times. Okay. Let me just see if there's anything else. Oh, there's another concept I love. Have a quiet space in your home. And people say, well, I don't have enough space in my house, or no, enough rooms. In your teenager's room, you can make a little corner where you can make it really great energy and say, this is your quiet space. And we're going to really put the colors in. We're going to put objects in that you love, maybe like dream catchers or maybe like feathers, to create a quiet space in different rooms where people can go to really be quiet and be still and not be bothered. It's their sacred place. So if your teen goes to his little futon mat chair in the corner, you know that he's taking space and he doesn't want to be bothered. It's kind of like a dog going to their little bed. So the parents then can respect that. If a teen is upset and he's chilling out, but he wants to be quiet and still and alone, you tell him to go to his space and you won't disturb him or her, right? The other kind of space to have is a space where you have the difficult conversations, which are often the kitchen table. Another person that I know, he and his teen got into an argument. She ran up to her room and she slammed the door. He waited, he paused, he walked back up there and he said to her, he said, Charlotte, I apologize. What I said was extremely unhelpful. But what I want to do right now is invite you down to the kitchen table. Let's have some hot tea and some biscuits and we'll go from there, right? Have a space then that you come back to that can hold the space for the difficult conversations and have it be an atmosphere of nurturance, hot tea and buns or biscuits or cookies, right? Make that invitation. I invite you to that. So that is the exterior space and some practices that you can do. And let's see again if there's any questions.
We don't have any questions in the chat, but I certainly open up this opportunity for anyone who has any thoughts or questions that you can certainly unmute your microphone and ask, or you can type it into the chat if you'd prefer.
I'd like to add just one thing. So B.F. Skinner is a psychologist that was back in the 50s. And just to circle back to, getting your kids to do things that you would like done in the house. He talked about promote learning new behaviors, positive consequences promote learning, negative consequences make it more difficult. So that old axiom of rewarding positive behavior rather than punishing bad behavior or criticizing. Because if you don't see that you get that positive charge, that way to go, thank you so much, we don't change their interior space in a positive way, it's an easier way to help them learn what it is that you want to teach them. And I think I learned that first at dog obedience school, to tell you the truth. Every parent should take dog obedience school, because you reward positive behavior, you reward the behavior that you want. So Susie, maybe sometime you'll come home and the dishes will be done and you need to throw a party. Yay, somebody did the dishes.
So Suzanne, somebody typed in, you mentioned a retreat, a mindfulness retreat. Do you have more information about that? Is there anything like that for teens?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. I've been going on retreats and doing retreats for a long time. And there is a mindfulness community that's affiliated with IMCW, and they do teen retreats. And imcw.org. They're a great organization. They're East and West and North. And they have teen retreats. And if you Google mindfulness and teens, there'll be certain organizations that will come up, and they do teen retreats that are great. There have also been parent teen retreats, which are also really cool, because in those cases, the teens go with one person, one group, one leader, and the parents go with another. And then at some point in time, they come back together again. Because teens learn differently than parents. Right? Yeah, but good
Thank
question.
you, Suzanne. And just real quick, if you are looking for a mindfulness program for your team that's not a retreat, we certainly welcome you to look into our mindful teen workshops that we have. They focus on self-acceptance, self-awareness. They move into the understanding what their powers are and their leveraging their unique abilities, and then finally defining and understanding their purpose and using their purpose to help themselves and others. So it's a 12-week program. I'll drop the link to our website on. We just started one today at the Brambleton Library. That one is actually full, and then we'll continue them in January with a new set of series that will be throughout the county. We will do one most likely Cascades Library. We've got one at the Ashburn Library and one at the Brambleton Library. So those are in-person programs that you're welcome to sign your teen up for. Now, I also just want to do one quick plug for our fort. Susie sent me a message about the fort is a program that we do for teens throughout the county. About once a month, we bring teens together with amazing community leaders who teach workshops. And those workshops are on mindfulness. They are on equine experiences, canine experiences, art, everything from painting to origami. And what we do is we bring kids together. We teach them a tangible skill that they hopefully that they can use when they are feeling a little stressed or they're feeling a little anxious or something that just grounds them. So again, you can find information about the fort. And the fort is the idea is that the fort is the home away from home. It's a place where kids can come, be accepted for who they are, exactly where they are. It's a very accepting community of teens. So if you're looking for something like that for your teen, we certainly welcome you to the fort, which will be in January. Yes, I will put the information here in the chat. Any parting words, Cindy and Suzanne, and then I will put the survey up as well. We do have a quick survey that we'd like for you to complete. We try to do these programs free of charge, and we're really based on getting donations through grants, and we need to report on grants. And so anytime that we have an opportunity to connect with the community and get some feedback, that helps us for our reporting purposes. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes to complete that survey, we'd really appreciate it.
I have to say, I am so happy you just talked about the Fort program and the workshops and the programs that you're doing, because what they are doing, and you haven't put it in these words, Val and Susie, but they're building the interior home of the adolescent. So everything that Cindy and I just said about interior home, exterior home, and space, those programs are cultivating an environment within the teen that is positive, that is calming, that is comforting, and that is building this positivity within. So there's another way that you're doing it. We haven't really labeled that, but you're building the interior home of this teen so that they have these wonderful qualities of being. They have this internal space inside themselves of safety and comfort that they then can lead and go out into the world with. And then you're doing it, and I've taught some of the meditation there. You're doing it in the structure of different buildings, but it's like going into the new home, right? The fort is the home. It's the home, it's the pulse, it's the vibration. It's a gathering place for the teens where they find community. And this is what your teens know. If we know anything about mental health in teenagers, they must be social. Their brains are geared for social. They care less about parents, more about friends. It's sad, but it's true. And we all have heartbreak about it. We got to just deal with it. But they want to go like gazelles in the jungle, and they want to flee in packs and go and have their fun and romp around in the field. So going to the place like the fort is the gathering place where they can go, and they don't exactly prance around, but we do a mindfulness thing. So the dogs prance around and they love it and they get all bubbly. But I think to really take that in about this offering that the Ryan Bartel Foundation does, it's a great service, and it's doing everything that Cindy and I just talked about, right, Cindy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could talk for another half hour, but we won't. So do you want to start with some parting words, Cindy?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody showing up. It's so awesome to see, parents engaged and wanting to show up for their kids better. I'm on the other side of teenagers and made it through unscathed, and my children thank me for being such a hard ass and mean and holding them accountable and blah blah blah, finally, in their late 20s and 30s. So I think whether your kids acknowledge it to you today, tomorrow, next week, you're doing a great job just being here, looking for ways to show up better and for them to show up better in life. So thank you for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, very busy schedule. And thank you, Susie, for, the Ryan Bartel Foundation and all it does for our youth. Yeah, because it's our future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I think to just piggyback, thank you everybody for coming in our busy days. I totally resonate with what Cindy's saying. And what your teens want more than ever is they want you to be present for them. They won't say it in that way. They want you to be present. They want you to show up, and they want you to listen. And they do want hugs. I know you don't think they do, but even the boys, they want hugs. So They tell me that when I'm working with them, that they're okay with that, but they're going to shy away from it. So show up for your kids in your presence, and they will show up for you. And then you will have these great listening and talking and speaking and pausing moments that will build resiliency in them over time. Your home will build resiliency if you bring mindfulness into it and you bring mindful presence into yourself. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much, Suzanne and Cindy. We really appreciate it. What a great conversation. I certainly got a lot out of it, and I talk to you all the time. So thank you so much.
I'd like
Good night,
to
everyone.
Actually, I want to add one more thing because Suzanne mentioned hugs, and I actually learned this at a recent film that was created by a father who lost his son to suicide, and he had explored all the reasons why these things happen. And he had gone to a teen camp where he learned that when you hug your child, you need to count to 5 and notice the impact that has. And I actually tried this myself for my own son right after I saw that movie. And it's amazing because I stood there and I counted to 5, and all of a sudden he hugged me tighter.
Oh.
And it was a response that I hadn't had before because I took the time to really feel the hug. So that's my parting piece of advice for anybody with a kid that they just want to hug.
Love that.
Yeah.
And when you hug, if you put your left arm up and your right arm down, rather than right arm up and left arm down, it's heart to heart. So people that you really trust, hug them heart to heart.
Wonderful.
Thank you for that, Susie. That was beautiful.
All right. Well, thank you again. Join us on December 16th for our next parental panel. We're going to be doing a brief teen mental health first aid for parents, how to handle your children's panic attacks, mood swings, and other teenage issues. So you'll see some registration information for that here really soon. And I certainly hope that you can join us on December 16th.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Bye, Suzanne. Good night, Susie.
Good night.
Good to see you.
Great to see you, Cindy. Take care.
You too.